Hi teachers, in this video I want to run through a few things about sharing, some tips and tricks that might make it easier to navigate sharing with your students. So first off, when you record things in Screencastify, they are not automatically shared. In fact, they will usually be labeled as private initially, unless if you click this item copy shareable link, or you choose from the drop down to have these unlisted or unlisted at an Olmsted. I would choose one of the two unlisted depending on what students are accessing things and how they might be accessing them. So if I don't click copy shareable link here, or I don't manually change this, my settings on this video remain as private. Now you can change the settings through your drive, and if you were to get into your drive, you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can go into your Screencastify folder and change all of your settings individually for things, or you could take your Screencastify folder, and if all of the videos that you're creating, you want them to always be shared, you should be able to override the sharing settings on your entire folder. That means that any files that go into this folder will be shared in this way. This may save you some time. Notice my folder right now is restricted, but I can change this link to North Olmsted City Schools, or I could change it to anyone with the link can view. Just keep in mind that if you do this, while it's not likely that someone will be able to find your video, there is always the potential that if you open it up to others and someone were to get that link, they would have the ability to view those videos as well. So changing your settings on the folder, though, will make it easier, so you won't have to remember to do each individual video, especially if you're recording with Screencastify and then closing out of things. Now, when you are sharing in Classroom, there's a few things to keep in mind. So we're going to head into Google Classroom. When I'm in Classroom sharing, if I create, let's say, a slideshow, and so I've added my slideshow, and then I also happen to add a video from my Screencastify folder. We'll just add this one for the moment. Once I add things directly to Classroom, Classroom will take care of the sharing for me. I don't need to manually change the sharing settings on a video added directly to Classroom, because Classroom will allow me to choose if students can view the file, students can edit the file, make a copy for each student. In fact, it will also be the same if I create material and add a video directly to that material. Now, the problem is Classroom only takes care of the files added directly here. If you place videos or other things within a slide deck, all of those permissions need to be set manually. So anything you link within your slide deck, whether you embed a video or you give a link to another presentation or a document, all of those settings need to be checked manually. So do keep that in mind when you're creating interactive slide decks. You need to make sure that the sharing permissions on all of those pieces within your slide deck are also set appropriately. You can, if you frequently keep all of those files within certain folders in your drive, you can also set the settings on those folders as well by finding the folder, either clicking the drop down, or in your drive, you can simply right click on the folder. If I right click on this folder and I click share here, then I can also set this settings here as well. So when I do this, I would want to, I'm going to have to change this one back change my link, I'd want to make sure the students are only viewers, unless if I want them to be able to edit whatever content. I really suggest being careful about changing North Olmsted or anyone to an editor, because you could potentially get your files messed up in that way. The other thing to keep in mind is, while many of our students do have district devices, we still have students that are either they have a district device, but maybe they're also using their own personal device, or a parent is looking on their device. So depending on the way that a student is trying to access the files and how things are signed in, they may get that the file is not available, or the file they need permission to access. If you have it set to North Olmsted City Schools and the parent or the student's account is not signed in quite the right way. So when that's the case, you may find that changing this to anyone with the link will make that a little bit easier. The one thing I do caution with changing to anyone with the link, first off, anyone can access that potentially. The other challenge with anyone with the link is that oftentimes causes further domino effect when students go to turn in things in classroom and then things accidentally get edited or placed in the wrong Google Drive. So just be aware of that. Everyone's device is different, and depending on how they log in to their Google account for school can determine how you can access things and where things will save when students are finished with them. So do keep that in the back of your mind as you're changing sharing settings and you're trying to make things the most accessible for families.